The following recording is brought to you by APQC, your source for benchmarking and best practice research.
So having a clear understanding and defining what your critical success factors are help you determine which organizational processes need to be fine-tuned given given the most attention. And that is an area of focus that most organizations lack, is a focus on their processes. And this happens for a lot of different reasons. And whether they realize it or not, most organizations accomplish work through processes. You may call them departments or functions or agencies, but most organizations have a series of processes that take an input either from the external world as a raw material or from another internal group. They act upon that input potentially several times, and they create an output, again, either for consumption by the external world or by another internal group. And to describe these processes, we developed our process classification framework in the early 90s. It was developed as a general model for companies to classify processes, and many organizations use it as a model to initiate benchmarking activities and benchmarking efforts because it provides a common language for discussion and even governance on how you as an organization accomplish work. And it provides the same benefit when benchmarking. You know, just think of the number of names that you've heard for the procurement department. I've heard it called procurement, buying, purchasing, material acquisition, you know, just to name a few. And without a common understanding or definition of how you'll actually accomplish work within your organization, it's hard to measure productivity or output, determine the impact you're having on those leading or lagging indicators, or define your critical success factors, or even understand what you might change or what you might need to go learn from another organization. One of the primary examples that I use in discussing this is I was involved in a benchmarking project years ago, and we had an organization that wanted to go benchmark their call center, and that's what they called it. And it was the area of the organization that took inquiries from customers around service or product information or defects or anything to do with their customer base. And they were having some issues with cycle time and resolution of issues with customers, so they wanted to go benchmark that with other organizations. And they came to us after a lot of failed attempts, and they had developed a survey and gone through all of the steps that were really sound steps in doing a benchmarking project, but where they had failed is by calling it call centers. And they would go to an organization and they would say, we want to benchmark your call center. And they had a lot of organizations that turned them away and said that they couldn't help them because they didn't have call center. Well, what they meant was they had a contact center that did calls, it did web-based requests, it did email requests, it did field service requests, and it handled all those types of customer inquiries, not just calls. So they were running into some problems with what they were calling the process and having a common language. So they were able to take the area of our process classification framework and pull out the activities and describe those activities they wanted to learn about to the people they were benchmarking with, and ultimately got back on track. So the process classification framework you're looking at shows the enterprise-wide level, or what we call process categories. And you can see that there are 12 major enterprise-wide categories, and this breaks down further to the process group, process, and activity level. And what we see is that many organizations found it very helpful to take the PCF, as we call it, and study it and adapt it to their organization. You're probably going to find some very different process groups, processes, or activities, but this should get you started down the road of understanding your process, how you're going to measure it, how it actually works, and how you might go learn about it. And here is a bit more of a detailed example of how the PCF works. This is within the process group of human capital, or HR as it's more commonly known. And you can see that the process group 6.4 describes one specific area of HR to a detailed level. So having a tool like this is important as you look to improve your organizational performance and conduct benchmarking activities, primarily because you have an understanding of your process to know what you need to improve. You can gain improvement just by examining your process, as you'll see in a bit, and you'll be able to assure an alignment of the processes that you have to objectives and goals. Remember all those arrows that were pointed in the right direction. Having an understanding of all the processes and activities that occur within an area of your organization are key to making sure that alignment happens.
Thank you for listening. For more information on our nonprofit organization, visit APQC online at apqc.org.